Before I can renew my license every 2 years, I have to complete so many hours of continuing education, which means that about this time 2 years ago, I was telling myself, you're not going to wait to the last minute to do your continuing education next time. That probably goes back to 2005 that I've been telling myself that. And yet, here I am again, waiting till the last minute to get it done, because life happens and you, or I, push it back until it's getting closer and closer to the time and I don't have much choice left. But the way it works, there's different setups now, but basically there's information, whether it's an article, now they have podcasts, or you can even pay hundreds of dollars if you choose to go for a weekend and get it all done at one time at a nice resort. But I do mine with articles, and then they ask you several questions about the topic. Then they have a few questions about, did they meet their objectives? Did they show any commercial bias? Basically, did they promote one drug over another? That type of thing. But the ones I want to speak about tonight are the sort of the last section of questions. There's questions about, how long have I been a pharmacist and that type of thing too. But the last section is, did you learn anything from this? Now, sometimes it's a refresher course. Illinois requires a certain topic every 2 years. It's basically the same every 2 years. Not learning a whole lot on that. But then the next question is, will you make a change? If what you've learned, will you make a change? Again, sometimes the topics don't necessarily apply to what I do every day. I did one on certain medication and what it should happen if a woman gets pregnant while taking it. I don't see that at a nursing home a whole lot, thankfully. So for me, I'm not making a whole lot of changes on that one, but it was a topic that I was interested in, and so I did the reading, did the questions. The next question is usually something along the lines of, how committed are you to making a change? Because again, I've told myself I'm not going to wait till the last minute, but I'm not really committed to making that change, or I guess we'll see in 2 years. And then the next question is, what might hinder you from making that change? Fittingly, if you summarize their multiple choice answers, it applies to a lot of what happens in our daily lives, what hinders us from making a change. I'm not going to get paid to make this change. So I don't have enough money. My finances hinder me from making a change. I don't have enough time in my day to make the change that I want to make. I can't get others to cooperate and help me make this change. Now, I have an advantage. I have someone in my household who also has to do continuing education every 2 years. And I could and may have at some point in my life used some of her answers to get me some credit when I needed it done quickly. I also may have, while in college, spent most of my semester break filling out answers for about 5 pharmacists to get theirs done as well. So I'm not the only one, unfortunately. But the point of this is not to just get it done. It's supposed to be that I learn something, that I make a change, I'm committed to a change, and I am trying to see problems ahead of time that will hinder me from making that change. So the point is to not take Amanda's answers and get it done. Some of the reading that I've been doing is in the book of Nehemiah. And for roughly 90 years, they did a lot of things, but they didn't build the walls. But once they decided to make a change, committed to making a change, they built the wall in 52 days. So I heard someone talking about, some of you may have heard of the Daniel diet. This is the Nehemiah challenge. What can we do in 52 days? I've tried twice this year, very unsuccessful both times. But 52 days is more than enough time to create a good habit. It's more than enough time to eliminate bad habits. But how committed are we to making that change? They were doing personal things for roughly 90 years. There were outside influences that tried to discourage them. Tobiah, Sanballat. But they were committed. It talks about in Nehemiah chapter 2 and 12 and chapter 7 and 5 about what God had put into his heart. And Nehemiah was devoted to that, to making that change. In Nehemiah chapter 4, let's try that again. Nehemiah chapter 4 and verse 14. It says, "And I looked and arose and said to the nobles and to the officials and to the rest of the people, 'Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes.'" Remember your purpose. Remember why you're doing this. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome. Don't be discouraged by those who are trying to discourage you, who are trying every tactic and trick and influencing others, to the point that some even set rooms for them so that they could have more of an influence of discouragement. Remember the purpose. And then in chapter 8, verse 10 of Nehemiah, it says, "Then he said to them, 'Go your way, eat the fat and drink sweet wine, and send portions to anyone who has nothing ready. For this day is holy to our Lord. And do not be grieved, for the joy of the Lord is your strength.'" How committed are you to making changes? How are you looking forward to try to see things that might hinder you from making those changes and coming up with ways to look to what you're devoted to, looking to our God, who is awesome?